here we are again. It's surreal how much has changed in the past year. Unfortunately, I don't have much new information, but rather, I'd like to take today just to talk about what we've unearthed regarding this company in the last year. While I haven't had many uploads this year, I've been more focused on my research behind them, which at least for me is a fair trade-off. This obviously mainly comes to play with AlphaDream related stuff, so let's get into what we did. In spring of this year, we uncovered a mobile game titled Big Bang Block that AlphaDream developed for Mobcast's 100 yen service back in 2007. While the game was incredibly small, I heard it was a fun time and seemed to be a pretty cool puzzle game. I'm unsure if it can be accessed in any form. From what I've heard, you'd need to be using old Japanese Wi-Fi, which might be near next to impossible to access. Although in recent years, we've seen a lot of older Japanese mobile games be found and preserved, so hopefully eventually the same can be said here. Although, I don't think uncovered is the proper term to use here though, as while I'm sure maybe a dedicated fan of AlphaDream from Japan may be aware of what Big Bang Block was, I don't think the same can be said here for here in the West. I've only seen a single person from the West online mention this game's existence, which even then was almost a decade ago with barely anyone seeing it. I don't want to give the impression I single-handedly found out about this game's existence, more so that I just gave it a tiny bit more relevancy. Later in the spring, I had the opportunity of a lifetime and was able to interview former AlphaDream employee Masashi Hiraki, a programmer from the studio who worked there in the 2000s. While nothing groundbreaking was unearthed relating to what was happening near the end of the studio's life, I'm internally grateful for it and we found out some really neat information regarding the development of the series. If you haven't checked it out already, I heavily recommend it. On a more personal note, the interview helped me do a launch of sorts for a series of interviews I did and plan on doing, dubbed Mass Views. The reason I call them mass views is because a lot of the questions come from you guys. Whenever I request questions for when I interview someone, I try to make sure at least 70% of the questions are from you guys. This year, I and you guys were able to ask questions to not only Masashi Hiraki, but Tomoya Tomita and Kenichi Nishi as well. All three ironically were part of second-party Nintendo Studios at some point. I will say I am sorry that I don't think I reached the 70% criteria for my interview with Mr. Hiraki, as I wasn't fully aware of what I wanted to do with the interviews at that point and prioritized some of my own questions, but I promise that has changed. Moving on, over the summer, I went through some old employee reviews of AlphaDream through a lot of Japanese job sites. It helped me uncover a lot more about than I thought it would. If you didn't know already, crunch is practically a staple in a lot of Japanese game companies, and after looking through several different companies, I've seen multiple people confirming this was just the norm for the industry. Although that doesn't make the crunch employees' experience at AlphaDream excusable. In the early 2010s, an employee said that the company was reported to the Labor Standards Bureau, which suggested it was worse than a normal Japanese game studio. I speculated in my video regarding these job reviews that it was a true start of the company's financial downfall. The company had an obscene amount of debt, even in March of 2018. While yes, the Superstar Saga remake didn't perform as great, it was still over $500,000, and AlphaDream would be contracted to develop a mobile game titled Kanama no Kanjiro Fit and Run, which certainly got them a decent amount of money. I've heard a lot of mixed information on how Fit and Run performed financially, and if you have any insight with a source, please do let me know. But considering some people from Japan didn't even know AlphaDream did Mario Luigi and only knew them for Fit and Run, I think it did decent, at least at first. It was also one of those mobile games that was graced with an offline version after the live service ended in early 2020, which I don't think they would have gone through all the effort of making if the original didn't make any profit. Anyways, to get back on track, I speculated that a lot of the debt that accumulated before the Bowser's Inside Story remake could have come from a fine or something from the Labor Standards Bureau, but it's still entirely possible I'm wrong here. What was important from that video is learning more insight about the troubled development of Dream Team, and while I assume things got better from here on out as a review suggested, recently I don't think I can be so positive. I'm not going to get too deep into things out of respect for the person, but in 2019, AlphaDream was just as bad, if not worse, from what I've heard. Overtime without pay, working 11 hours a day, 6 days a week, and I may not be a legal expert, but those both seem completely illegal. In the last 2 years of the company, around a dozen of the employees left because of a personal dispute and then would later go to ILCA. This was according to a forum post right after AlphaDream went bankrupt, which will later be confirmed thanks to ILCA's games credits. Of course, also this year we saw the announcement and will see the release of Brothership. It's looking like the perfect successor to the 3DS entries with new original characters, a ton of fun environments, and an amazing art style with superb animation. This is quite possibly the best outcome, and I cherish being in this timeline every single day. I will be covering this game a lot when it releases. Hey y'all, Future Lizardy here. This is like my 3rd time needing to rewrite and re-record this video, and I am very tired. Speaking of ILCA, they're who I speculated was going to be developing Brothership. They had the most former staff that we knew of at the time, and I had already confirmed ILCA's staff was working on an AARPG, releasing likely before 2026, unless that game got canned. Although just a few days ago we found out Acquire, the developers behind Octopath Traveler and a ton of other smaller games, is developing Brothership. Around 5 or so AlphaDream employees that weren't credited on anything past Mario and Luigi games are back for Brothership in more of a leadership role, including former AlphaDream's CEO Yoshihiko Maekawa as a supervisor. The series is in good hands. We'll talk more about Acquire in another video. Also, I unlisted the Ilka video to avoid spreading misinfo. Apologies to those I misled, I could have handled it a lot better. A few people got the impression that I was a leaker. I am not, I just do a little bit of digging around to try and connect the dots. The Ilka video was speculation for the most part, trying to rule out developers and figure out who fit best. On a quick side note, Brothership has also gotten quite a few trailers now, and I can really make videos on individual frames from them alone, so I'll try to make some once I get the time. All I can say really is that this game looks stunning in every aspect. In terms of music, animation, combat, everything looks so pushed to the max. Now let's go back to the past Lizardy. That's about all that happened this year relating to AlphaDream that I can remember. Now I want to talk about something that I feel like I need to bring up. Is it morally okay to be a fan of AlphaDream after how employees were treated? After being subjected to so much crunch and overtime, sometimes without any pay, can you really support a studio that did that? This will sound really stupid, but Bowser Jr. said it best. Everything is relative. In other words, it's all about perspective. The higher-ups at AlphaDream were the problem at hand. As a company, AlphaDream was not good. But as a game developer, looking at the actual developers, the craftsmen, I love the games AlphaDream created, but I am not a fan of the company itself. I love the developers, the people who poured their hearts into these games, and I hope they're doing better in the industry now or whatever they're up to. 5 years ago, I was on the bus on my way to school when I opened Twitter or something and found out AlphaDream had gone under. I was incredibly sad. Not only because of the loss of the studio, but the lack of closure. There wasn't much details besides that the company was in a lot of debt. Sure, we knew it was because of how the remakes performed, but I needed more. It felt so sudden and abrupt. I think after 5 years, I've achieved what I so longed for. I found closure. I have documented and found out a lot more about this company, discovering more context as to how their downfall happened, and I don't really have any more questions. I feel satisfied. This is all thanks to you guys, though. I was only able to do this thanks to all of your guys' continued support, so thank you all so much. Of course, if I have the opportunity to interview another developer or something, I'd gladly take up the opportunity, but I'm done with digging for AlphaDream stuff unless if something really interesting pops up. I plan on making a retrospective detailing every major event in AlphaDream's history, and it'll probably be my last video in the studio, at least for a while. I'd rather talk about Mario Luigi itself, which I will not stop doing. I'll try to have the retrospective out before the release of Brothership, if I can. Thank you all again for continuing to support me, it means the world to me. Farewell AlphaDream, thank you for all of the memories you've given me. Now it's time to look forward to a new Brothership. That was really corny, I'm really sorry about that. I'll see you all next time, thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to buy Brothership and support the future of Mario and Luigi.